Welcome to Christ Truth Reveal, the Unleavened Bible and the Meaning of Life, episode 31 with your host, Celeste and the Lion. And I am the Lion.
Welcome, Lion. Celeste is live.
So I just put down for the title of the topic tonight, Retreat Within to Spiritually Go Forth. Soul evolving, body is the temple of God, soul's evolution vessel. Retreat within to spiritually go forth. What that is just saying simply is to just close off all the world stuff, all the noise, all the leaven, and retreat within to the kingdom that is within and go forth spiritually in the knowledge and understanding that that is where God lives and exists to each one of us. The soul is the life. Man has but one life. And when it says man, it means mankind. But not just man.
Gender neutral. Yin and yang.
Yep. Yin and yang. Yin and yang. Everything is yin and yang. So we've been saying in past episodes, talking about the beating of the olives and everything. And I was just been kind of thinking to shift that to be more out of a parable, or not to be in parable, but we talk about the olive being beaten, and the olive tree is the tree of life.
Needing the olive oil so that you can have a full lamp, so that when you are to be wed, right, you can be known by Christ.
Yep. And then we understand, we hear the calling when we have the full body, which is talking about the soul. So the oil is the soul, it's the energy. The olive is physical existence, and we live in these physical existences in every form of every level of evolution of the soul, in every existence up through all of life is chaos and horror and terror. It's fight and flight. It's fear. It's all of those things. And those are the things that beat the olive, but the olive being the body and the consciousness in the body, being ignorant of its self as soul, as God, as an eternal being. So the soul is evolving. It starts out as basically nothing, and then it starts as a spark.
And then that's as an atom. Son of Adam.
As an atom, yes, thank you. As an atom. It started as atom. And then atom was on the eve of the existence in physical life. And then Cain and Abel are a parable of how that worked. Cain was physical part, Abel the spiritual part, and Cain killing Abel was just simply ego cutting off God, because the energy in the body isn't full with the soul, but the soul is always existent. It always lives in the heart, with the heart. But also the soul is fully evolved from the beginning, because there is no time or space to God and to the soul when it is at the spiritual level. So this is a vessel that we live in, and it is the temple of God.
In this stage of whatever stage of your evolution, this body, yeah.
Yes.
But it's been through many evolutions already to have gotten to this point.
Yep. Just to become
it is controversial. Human. Yeah, you know, I always like to acknowledge what's going to be controversial to the
yes.
Bible, you know, Sunday Bible believers that aren't really seeking for themselves, but being hand-fed what they believe to be true
Yes.
through a church or an organization, religious organization.
And we do speak of that. I speak of that from Southern Baptist religion that I came from
Mm-hmm.
and started my spiritual journey actually almost immediately when I was awakened, when I had an answer 3 years after I asked.
Mm-hmm.
And then Celeste comes from probably more of a universal type.
For sure, Catholicism, be it
Yeah,
not a not a really deep dive in that, right? It was more of the religious experience of showing up somewhere and kind of going through the motions, but not a true relationship of seeking or understanding or even devotion. Wasn't really
yes.
devoted to that as a religion.
Yep. And so we both understand, we both come from religion, and religion is a wonderful thing because it did give me the start, but it wasn't the way. It was just a part of the way.
Mm, exactly.
And not too long after I got into the religion, within the first year, I just saw too many things that didn't sit with me, that what I was flowing elsewhere and then was taken. So anyway, when we talk about religion, we do it from experience, from our own experience.
Calling a spade a spade. It's not a judgment.
That's right.
People have religious experiences and it draws them closer to God. But it's not really being actively taught in many, not many of the religions actually teach you to go within, to retreat within, and experience the relationship of God living in you, or give you tools on how to do that. So I love that that's kind of how we're sharing the good news, is by offering to do that with people and allow them to have an experience of being known, at that atom level. When you know your soul's name, when you have a informed realization of your spirit animal and how that has been why when earth was ruling you, when you were of the world, why your nature, human nature, was the way it was. It's really dramatic awareness that kind of softens the need to have ego anymore.
Yes, yes. Very good way of putting that. And
Yeah.
it is a gentle shift.
Mm-hmm.
These days, it's not as gentle, but for me, it was a very gentle ride over decades
And
of just,
I'll say it was gentle for me, even though it's only transpired over the last year plus.
yeah.
Not even a year, right? Who knows?
Yeah,
Maybe
actually,
at least 6 months.
the full on's like been 10 months now, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
It's almost a year. We started, I think, in June
yeah.
2020.
So just saying that, even amidst all the chaos, it really becomes. I think you said that about chaos and fear, and that's how we get kind of the rendering of our spirit, so that our soul's lamp is full. Um, but even amidst that, right, it can shift into a feeling of gentleness, of just loving kindness, of known purposefulness, kind of meaning of life stuff, right? It really does become that if you allow it.
Yes, and then the purposeful is already set. It's already
Hmm. But coming into
um,
alignment with it, coming into that
yeah,
place where you come to a understanding of, oh, this step is just me catching up with the future that was already written,
right,
which is a
exactly.
cool feeling. It really does feel like when you when you experience it, you're just like, yeah, knew that it was going to be this good.
Yeah,
Like what for you with living disease free, right? These are things that you can now expect. You can
yes.
expect to feel like you are doing things greater than he.
Yes. And so much more to come.
Yeah,
So much more.
right. This is
Yep.
just
And
merely a
then,
glimpse. I mean, our whole life is just a vapor, and I think that's not a cloaked parable, right? That's spoken so truly that our life is just a vapor
yep.
in this body.
Yes. Yep. Temporary, up to 100 years. But it seems so important and so center of the universe and
Yeah, yeah.
and so tough. But then when you come to the realization that God created all of this for pleasure, and then that God is me living out God's plan to experience and to gain energy for the soul, for each soul. And then the outcome for the soul is to eventually incarnate into a body, it's full with energy, and then to do like Jesus did in that last lifetime, to fully awaken, have the veil ripped open, and the
Ascending.
ego is actually the veil. The ego puts up the veil and tries to hold it tight, closed.
Yeah, and I think it was helpful. I like how in the past you've pointed out that ego is a necessary tool for us as humans. That it's not we can't judge that either, right? The ego was
No,
there, our human nature was there, right? Our soul animals, human nature was driven by this ego because that's how we would have the ability to fill our soul's energy through these life experiences of, kind of chipping away at our ego and slowly getting to that place of full surrender.
yes, absolutely. And full surrender and on into going forth into eternity, and then becoming conscious and becoming a full, being fully conscious and becoming like the archangels that are written of in the Bible. That's what we become. Those aren't just created out of nothing. They experienced at least something. The first being had some kind of intelligence and consciousness and was a part of the creation and things, whether it was Adam, which I doubt that it was Adam. I think Adam was the beginning of the true setup of evolution for the soul to go through all of these things. And then why, right? Um, why this from a human perspective? Why do we do this? Why do we go through these things of good and evil? And then good and evil can be flipped, and that's why we're not supposed to judge things, because it says good and evil. Well, good is a judgment, and then there's evil. But people that are thought to be doing evil or to be evil think that they're good. And then they think that like religion is evil or, good
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
love,
Sure.
things like that. So everything is interchangeable. But once you get to the experience of the soul and its eternal life, and sit in that, which anyone can do in meditation that has enough oil in their lamps. And again, I shouldn't say that. I want to try to get away from that. The disciple said to Jesus, "Why do you speak in parables?" And Jesus said, "Because it's for you to know, not for them." What does he mean? The ones that have evolved to where they fill the body with the energy of the fully evolved soul, to that point on the line.
Which means clearing some chakras, right? Bringing the energy
Uh,
up in those chakra fields.
yes, and the chakras are very important. I don't know if it's important to understand that or to really have to know that, but knowing that you do have them is, I think, pretty important to me anyway.
Yeah.
Because
Controversial again, but right, if you haven't done that level of work, right, you may not have found your voice, right? You haven't cleared that throat chakra so that your true voice can be heard and the meaning of your life can, you know, resonate with you.
yes, yeah, and that's a great point. Yes, the throat chakra is what we speak from. Either the ego is speaking, which is actually planned, it's written in the heart, or it's the soul that's speaking
Mm.
directly and by the mind's assistance, so to speak.
It's Celeste speaking.
Yes.
It's
And Marielle.
Marielle.
Yep. And then, of course, we
Giraffe
do.
Heart chiming in on the chat, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, right there.
Lovely.
You
And,
don't need to know how to
we
breathe
don't
to
have
breathe. That's it.
Israel's not here this time, but
Yeah.
always love to give him a shout out. And, you know, if you want to
Yes.
get a shout out on the podcast, then hit us up and let's schedule a time for you to be able to learn the origin of your soul name and the ego's origin from a spirit animal standpoint.
Yes. And we've talked about that before. We do offer meditations for anybody that would like to give it a try. You don't have to, do anything with it or anything like that. But if you'd like to give it a try, we offer to just give us a message. All we have to do is I have to have a way to invite, and we can invite to a private session on here. And we can go through a meditation to teach you how to meditate, to get into alpha consciousness, which is the first part of Christ consciousness, and then to theta consciousness, which is the red, the blood of Christ, which is the seventh heaven that Jesus went to. And then, if your soul is willing, I can't say that it would happen every time because it doesn't. But if your soul, which is what leads for you, we just help this, we just are a vessel for your soul. And you can meet your soul. It is a yin and yang being, and it is energy. It is in a body, though. It is in a body, some body from your future or from now. And it's joined with Jehovah and Michael and Gabriel and all of them. They're all one, and they all work together. And you can actually feel them. You can actually feel all of it. And then one other part of it is to introduce you to your spirit animal, which is what everybody has, and that everybody will see that it is them after they know. They'll know for sure because you'll see it in your body, in your face, your body style. And that is actually pretty important. And most people just kind of have fun with that part of the meditation. They didn't really go very far with like the soul and stuff or understand that. But they had a lot of fun with the knowing what their animal is and to see that in the mirror, to know your nature, to know what your carnal nature is, why you do the things you do, why your body looks
Defines
the
the
way it looks.
defines the ego's personality almost, right?
Yeah, yeah, it does. Yes, the ego's personality, big time. Yeah.
That's such a cool, again, because I think that's part of that journey of kind of moving out of the chaos and into the calm, because now you have an understanding of why things are, and now then you can start to back off from those types of circumstances where you might go back to an ego driven self and not um, not be, an experience of God, for God, by God, just being, and just kind of being present with whatever the circumstance is.
Yes,
You have
and
that knowing that you don't have to do what the old ego did.
right,
And that's I think
exactly.
that's where I was coming from when I was talking about
Yes.
a little bit more gentle way of losing the ego, because it's almost impossible, in my opinion, to. And again, I haven't had much practice at it being egoless. I'm not saying that I'm doing that already, but right, the truth is that you can even, kind of have a spiritual materialism, right? Like, oh, I'm more spiritual than you, or whatever, and that's not what any of this
Yes.
is about, right? That's it's
Yes.
it's just
Yes.
about being an experience of God, for God, and coming into agreement with, you know, we're not going to judge it. We're not going to, right? If it's done, it's because it was meant to be. We're just going to keep living in that place of presence.
Yeah, that old song comes to me of
Mm.
I'm more spiritual than you are. That's not it at all, because everybody is where they are, and
Exactly. There's no
but when
judgment.
you realize, that everybody is also completely finished. And so when you look at somebody, that they are soul,
Mm-hmm.
and that they're beautiful and they're perfect. And that's a good point, Celeste. Even after, like, I did the meditation and I learned about myself and all of that, I didn't understand the ego part, and I didn't I had to learn that. I had to be it had to be revealed to me
Right.
of the separation of the ego and the symbolism of Judas being that ego that betrayed Jesus. And that's kind of what it looks like our ego betrays us. Once you realize that you're in Christ consciousness, that you are still going to have ego as long as you are a physical being. You will still have ego, and you're still going to do things that the ego does,
Mm.
but you don't judge it anymore. You don't judge it anymore. If you do something at the end of the day, that was meant to be. And then something we used to have fun with is saying, "What time is it?" Oh, Israel is in. What time is it? Now.
Yeah.
What time is it? Now.
Yeah.
What time is it? Now. That's all there is now. There's
Yeah.
only now. Everything in the past is gone. It's done unless you waller in it or dwell in that. The future to this body hasn't come to pass yet, but it has to God.
Mm-hmm.
It's already done, because with God there is no time or space. When creation was created, the Alpha and the Omega was there, done, all at the same time, all at once.
I have a clock in my office that tomorrow's kind of a landmark day. It's going to be the first day back on campus after the shutdown a year ago, and so
Oh,
I'll
yay.
get to look. As soon as I walk in my office, the clock is one of the first things you see, because it's on the facing wall from the door, and my clock only has four indications. That at the 12 o'clock mark it says B, at the 3 o'clock position it says here, at the 6 o'clock position it says present, and the 9 o'clock position it says now. Be here, present, now.
That's
That's it.
awesome.
There's no other time you can tell if you're in my office. Because I'm not going to tell you what time it is. I'm going to say, no, we're supposed to be here, present, now.
Yeah. Yep.
Living in that, teaching kids that that's what you need to live in. Your future tripping, or your, right? Um, Crystal balling, all these things that are just,
Yeah. Yes.
living in the past, living in regret, all these things that hold us back, that take,
Yes.
or what are kind of, yes, it's filling our spirits, right? Our souls are becoming more well illuminated. Is that a better way
Yes.
of saying it?
Yes, that's beautiful. Yes, thank you. Yes,
Yeah,
illuminated.
we're looking to expand everyone's souls. That's the goal of the good news, and so as you know, they come into awareness of like, oh yeah, being here present now is gonna actually help me not get into those things that are causing me these problems.
Yes.
Coming into
Yeah,
consciousness,
yeah, beautiful.
coming into your power, knowing that you can do things greater than Christ.
Wow. So beautiful.
It's good to be back, man.
Yeah, yeah. Missed you last week for sure. The lion just rambled last week and it got cut off with my technical issues, and I had a lot of fun in the part that got cut off. I guess that's why.
No
I
mistakes.
was I didn't hold back on anything, but it's gone.
A
And
lot of fun, man.
if anybody feels, led to call in, we do take call-ins. We would love to have that, and if not, that's fine too. Um, to illuminate. So yes, as Celeste said, we would love to help people to illuminate, but if it's somebody listening to this that isn't, a fully evolved soul yet, it's okay. You're right where you're supposed to be, but take heart and gratitude in the fact that that you are illuminating.
Mm-hmm.
That's what your life is for. You are
Ever
illuminating.
expanding.
You are going to become enlightened. Everybody will. Well, I don't want to say everybody, because I know there are bodies that are just temporary, that do have soul in them. They have the breath of life, which is God, which is soul, but they aren't evolving. They're just here to give us a gift of density, just no light. And then they just go back to where they came from, which is from God's substance, whatever that is. At this time, it's atoms. It's and then molecules put together, and then basically everything is by our belief. When we realize that when we're walking on a floor, that floor really doesn't exist, or when we run into a wall, that wall really doesn't exist. And then when you get higher in vibration, you actually can get to the point to where that wall does not exist and where you can move past through it. You don't have to walk on a floor. And that's just part of coming to enlightenment in a human body or a physical body, wherever that may be in the universe, that you can do those things as Jesus did. And it's said that Jesus didn't travel with his disciples necessarily. He just appeared in places. And I believe that that's possible. I believe it actually is a reality, actually, to tell you the truth.
Mm. I did want to share that little story I told you about last weekend where
Yes, please.
the, I'm calling it the healing bench story because we've been just kind of recalling last weekend. Got some time away in the mountains and was very active with hiking and snowboarding and beach volleyball, and just wanted to have a low day where I could do some recovery time, and wanted to get in the lake. It's highest alpine lake in North America. It's a very, very cold temperature, but the lake never freezes. And so I was saying, as we were before we had even gone down to the water, I was saying how I wish there was a bench in the water that I could just use to kind of do my cryotherapy, so I could sit on it with my knees fully immersed and maybe even lay on it so I get my shoulders, some cryotherapy. And then, yeah, after I walked down to the beach, just straight down from the beach from the bench we were at, there happened to be the perfect size log in the water floating which probably isn't common because the dock is right next to it. So they probably don't like to have big floating logs near the dock where birds could run into them. But it
Well,
was
no,
there. No, it was there. It was right there for me, and it was truly the healing
manifest.
log. Yeah, it was truly the healing bench for me. I got to sit on it, and my knees, kind of got to have that cryotherapy. Shoulders got to have it. Got the whole body cool down. It was like the first day of 70s at that altitude for the year. So it was crazy provision. But right, I kind of spoke it, manifested it, and now I get to share it because I think it's a beautiful
Yes.
kind of example of, when I shared it the first time with some other friends, one of the people I was sharing it with was the one who called it the healing bench. Oh, you called up your own healing bench. So anyway,
And it worked out to be exactly like you imagined. That's awesome.
yeah.
It's so awesome. And that is so true. I mean, when
I'm
you're
not
in,
walking through walls, but yeah,
yeah, but
that works.
when you're walking uh in unison with God's plan, when you understand that you're living God's plan, then you receive those things. You receive those little gifts of, okay, you get that imagination and that vision and it manifests. That's awesome. That is amazing. That's illumination for sure. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, it feels like, and I had this prayed over me before, that, coming into this idea of Jubilee and just this isn't a prosperity gospel. It's really not what I'm trying to say here, but it does feel like I'm kind of moving into that season, because people have prayed
Yes.
over it for me and I knew it was coming. And it's like, okay, well, I accept, and I'll gladly, shout with joy that it was all God's idea. It wasn't. None of it was my idea.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah. Yes. Yeah. And if anybody on the board that's actually in on the app, um, you'll probably get a pop up or you'll get pop ups
yeah,
that ask to follow or for donations. Now, the following thing,
send a
that's
gift.
fine.
We're not asking for
Yeah.
gifts. We're not asking
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
donations. Anything.
If you want to follow, follow. If you don't. But if you want to follow and if you want to learn the meditation that we talk about, just send us a message and we'll work it out. We can do a private podcast on here just like this, and it will record. But what I can do is either delete it or I can keep it for you and get it to you so you can have it, because there are things said in those things that are good to have for reference.
Yeah, for your own training, because you'll be entering a season of training, and that training will include hopefully you sharing this good news with other people and bringing them along, so that we are all expanding.
Yes. And many people are going to. Many people are going to. And it says, like it says in the Bible, many are called, few are chosen. So there's many that are ready to hear the call. They aren't necessarily ready with the full lamp. I mean, with their soul isn't necessarily energized enough through experience to like ascend into heaven yet, but on the way. And then the ones that are chosen are the ones that do have the lamps full, that are ready to ascend into the heaven realm.
Fully illuminating.
Yes, fully illuminated. And thank you. We're going to use that from now on because that is the best way to say it. Enlightenment is illumination. It is
Let's not get
illumination.
confused with the Illuminati, though.
No. Well, no, but the Illuminati started out,
With a good
as,
intention.
yeah, they were really illuminated. But then like everything else, the word is made of non-effect through your traditions. And there really isn't I don't hear it really hardly anywhere. I do hear people speaking of Christ consciousness and stuff like that, but I don't hear anybody talking about what that means as far as eternal life and ascension, pretty much most people believe you have to die to go to heaven.
And
But
how
if
to
you,
live in it right here now. Be here
yeah,
right now.
heaven's
Be,
right
be,
now.
be here present now. You can be in it.
It's right here, right now, always. Just like hell is. Hell is here. I've been there. I know it. And again, I'll say that saying that an actor said, uh, hell, religion is for people that are afraid of hell. Spirituality are for people that have been there. Well, we know what hell is. Hell is anything disconnected from God, but not necessarily in that way. It's just living a life of fear. That's hell. Living a life of hate. That's hell.
Mm.
People don't even realize that they're in hell when they hate. Like hate somebody, want revenge on somebody. That doesn't hurt the other person. It only hurts yourself.
Yeah.
Love is the answer. And
Yeah, and I can speak to that from so much media and so much attention on violence against Asians, and I can tell you that that's part of why I'm where I'm at in my soul's progression. I don't regret any of it. I don't wish it upon anybody. My knees would be in a lot different shape if I didn't get attacked on the soccer field as many times as I did. But some of that was the tiger in me caused some of that too. So it's not all
oh yeah,
the external circumstances. But I will say that there's been that. I've had that. I've had to report hate crimes before. And I don't live in that at all. I almost sometimes feel guilty that I'm not being more vocal proponent of some of these injustice movements. But right, it feels a little too much. It feels like so many people that are in these movements are really seeking, like a pound of flesh. Right? It's not just about making the injustice unknown or wanting to eliminate it. It's like we need to exact some revenge. Feels
yeah,
like. Feels like.
yeah.
I could be misinterpreting that somewhat, but talk of reparations and all these things. It's really pretty intense season.
Yeah,
I think that's more right.
you got a bunch of
It's part of what's accelerating, right? People's illumination.
yeah. Well, yes,
It's not
yes,
bad. It's again, we're not judging it. We're just noticing it. We're here, present now.
yes. And actually, there is. I did. There's been a lot of stuff, over the
Yeah.
years, but there's never been this population. This many conscious souls, or conscious unconscious souls. I mean, almost 8 billion, right?
Mm.
People alone, and that's not including every other level of life, physical life, animals and bugs and plants and all that stuff. And all that stuff is alive, and anything alive like that is God living it in the universe
Amen.
everywhere. Um, let's see, I was going to touch on something, but I guess I lost it.
Well, we tend to be, this isn't a scripted podcast. We go with the
Yeah.
Holy Spirit. We just accept that, right? It's going to be perfect imperfection. So if
Yes.
if that's difficult for you, then welcome to our world.
Yeah. And
It's not easy, even if you're surrendered to it. It's not easy, but right, we still have egos. We still have expectations and desire different outcomes, and it doesn't work like that. This is just not. That's not God's economy.
nope, not at all. Not at all. And, no expectation, not attached to any outcomes, anything like
Mm-hmm.
that. It was just something that was to be, and for Celeste and I to share, just to share this and to watch, or to share our journeys, not for people to compare to, but for people to, see that can happen to you. It is happening to you,
Yeah. And
but
I
it
think,
doesn't.
yeah, listeners will get a better perspective on that journey if they go back and listen to like all of our episodes from episode 1 and up.
Yep. And anybody that's from a Bible background, um, in episode 2 and 3, I give symbolic meanings of the words in the Bible. And so if somebody is from the Bible and you're sitting in the church or the pew or whatever, like I did, and thinking there's more, this just isn't, this isn't telling me that to believe in Jesus and believe in the things that he did, and that I can do that and do greater, or that we're joint heirs, or about the man that asked for eternal life and Jesus said, "Come with him now," and separated it from death when he said, "Let the dead bury the dead."
Right.
So right now, here at this time, now, the planet and the solar system, at least, maybe universal, is in God's vibration and going higher and higher. And so anybody that chooses love right now, and I don't mean the passionate love of relationships and stuff, I mean unconditional love, like when your child is born, how you feel for that child, that you will love that child no matter what. And I know it doesn't always work out that way for some people, but choose the love, and the energy that's here will take you on that path and reveal it all to you. So, moral of the story is that everybody is in a human body for their soul's life, because the soul is evolving, and the soul is evolving to where it can take a brain and a heart in a body with the ego in its place of balance and go on in eternity. And that is what the life is about. It's not about this world that is temporary, that you'll live up to 100 years, that you'll have children in, that you'll have homes, and that you'll have cars or whatever, bicycles, and however. It's about the soul, and the soul is eternal, and the soul is always alive and always one, many of one. And the soul will actually expand itself. My soul, your soul, when it evolves like Jesus did, when it expands into that higher vibration and illuminates fully, that's actually not fully illuminated, that's just the start of it, then you have soul children, so to speak. You create your own manifestations of a way to continue keeping your keeping your lamp filled, keeping your soul filled. It will go on for eternity. And that was something actually that was revealed to me recently, of really understanding that our soul, like Gabriel, had soul children, probably Joseph, Mary, their cousins that had John the Baptist is connected to, and that's all parable stuff. So it's pretty complicated, but you can understand those parables just by letting God reveal in yourself, just telling God you're ready. And if you're not ready, God will let you know in some way. But if you are ready, I did a meditation during the week on here with a friend that had done the original meditation. It was just to energize. And I'm telling you, I was amping out all week. I just started to balance out yesterday or toward the end of the day. And then today I was very balanced out, but I was amped out from it. We just really connected and just flowing. This body was going nuts. It was hard to talk on the phone or anything. Yeah, it was awesome. It's really awesome.
But yeah,
And
it's interesting because I felt like I was kind of on the other end of that spectrum where my body felt like it was really breaking down again, just from, I don't know if it was being so rested and relaxed and reset and then coming back into the vibration of the place where I currently live and the demands of the role that I currently serve. I got pretty beat down this week. I was very worn out. So
yeah,
it really took a toll on my body in the last couple of days. Like this morning I was really not good. Yeah,
and that's
a lot of pain.
That is kind of the thing of getting away and getting, and having, the water bench,
Mm-hmm.
and being in that place and all of that. And then, yes, and then having to go back
that
to
reset. But yeah, so, I guess it's interesting because we are, for readers who have not, or excuse me, listeners who had not heard you use the term split aparts, that,
okay.
sometimes that's happening to us where, right, you could be on a high and I could be on a low, and then it'll be opposite. You'll notice if I'm really vibing,
Yes.
and you'll be curious, like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah. And
So maybe I should have been asking that this week, like, okay, I'm feeling something. There must be something going on.
yeah, and I was this week. Yeah, I could feel you
Mm-hmm.
for sure. I was looking for you.
Mm-hmm.
Your phone broke and you were supposed to call me and you didn't. And then, yeah, I could tell like something was going on.
Yeah.
I was trying to get you involved in the meditation that day, but I guess your phone still wasn't working or whatever, or you were
Still hasn't.
distracted.
Yeah, I'm still not back up yet, but
Yeah.
a few technology issues. It's like I said, right? There's things happening that were supposed to happen that
Yes.
are slowing
Yes.
down my expectations of what should be happening. But
Yes.
none of it's
And then,
good or bad or wrong or right. It just is. So
no, but
I got to roll with it.
it's really important though what you're saying, because I
Mm-hmm.
know it's not just you, it's everybody I know that is on a, especially that are awakening.
Mm-hmm.
It's breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. You
Yep.
have to breathe in and breathe out. And what I mean by that is what you're doing right there. Breathe in, breathe out. But also our life. We breathe in and then we breathe out and we kind of go down. We feel dense. We go into the ego a little bit. And then but you're going to come back and you're going to go higher than you were before.
Yeah.
You keep breathing in and breathing out. That's the law of the universe. That's natural law.
Mm-hmm.
The universe breathes in, breathes out. Everything breathes in, breathes out. The breath of life is in everything.
I had a acupuncture appointment, and I really expected to have one of those really great meditations, and it just didn't happen. I
Yeah.
just kind of stuck in that expectations of, and then, well, that didn't get met. So, just keep chugging.
Yep. And again, it's kind of like a springboard. You get
Yeah.
the wrist rocket. You're pulling back the rock, right? And that's pulling on the band. And then boom, and then you shoot out. So I would say, not to try to read the future or tell you what to expect, but I know that it's gonna shift back. It will just cycle. It cycles. It's a spiral of evolution.
Yep.
But like I say, it's other people that I know, that are doing this. just like we'll talk and like it's the end of the world. And then the next week it's like flying with all this information,
Nothing's been
just
better.
flying. Yeah. It's an awesome thing to witness. And, of course, I know it from experience, breathing in, breathing out, going down and going up, feeling low, feeling high. And then what that is going to do, though, is going to balance out. It will balance. And it's actually it's actually not too hard to do that these days because everything is accelerated. So the lows aren't as long as they used to be, and the highs aren't as long as they used to be. And then they're kind of coming together. And it will get better, so to speak.
Yeah.
This body is a vessel of the soul. It belongs to the eternal soul. The eternal soul is the one that is the creator with God, by God, for pleasure. And the pleasure is for the soul to expand and for it to eventually illuminate a body at one point, which would be its final physical life, and then to be more and more and more, and which is in the other way around, is for God to experience more magnificence.
Mm-hmm.
And then the soul will create other lives, other children lives or whatever, split into more experiences, but the soul will be in the driver's seat from there on. It'll be working the controls. Right now, we're just the avatars, and the soul is working our lives with its controller. And it's pretty much just like that. The battles, all those things, the soul loves that. And that's pretty much why humans love it. And it's why humans are trying to create what you already are.
Yeah.
Wanting to create
trying to
virtual worlds.
manufacture, trying to.
I mentioned a movie, Lucy, a couple episodes ago, I think,
Mm-hmm.
where she takes like we're talking about, she takes a synthetic drug and she takes a bunch of it and she ascends. And it's really a cool movie. I mean, just take out the synthetic drug and just pay attention to what she does in her ascension. She just starts to see everything in a matrix. She feels everything. She knows everything. It's really awesome. And that's actually a really good description of what it's like to do naturally. It actually does happen.
Bit of a sketchy film, you said, can be scary.
Well, it's
not a PG film.
No, it's dramatic. It's got a lot of action and death and stuff like that in it. Yeah. But it's really good. Yeah, it's really good. Those kind of things don't faze me anymore. Sure. It's kind of like she says in the movie, nobody really dies. it's funny because she's driving, trying to get, somewhere, and people are crashing all over the place and they're running through things. And she says, nobody really dies. And it's true. On these podcasts, I have the playlist HTML, the site directly at YouTube to go. And none of this is about likes, shares, whatever the common thing is for people to say. If like, share, subscribe. It's not about any of that. We don't care about that stuff. It's kind of fun to watch organically because this is something we don't hear. This is the good news. This is not being taught anywhere. There's parts of it here and parts of it there, but pretty much none of it's being taught to tell you, oh, that was what it was. The song, what if God was one of us? Just a slob like one of us. Well, guess what? God is all of us, and I'm a freaking slob sometimes. So God is a slob like one of us. And then everybody else, everybody in this world, God is all of us. Everybody in this universe, God is all of us. God is everyone. So God is a slob. God is a beggar. God is a murderer. God is everything. And I know that's controversial. I'll say it before you, Celeste. That's controversial, but I don't care. Just if you don't understand what I'm talking about, the kingdom is within. The kingdom is within. It's at hand. And the reason why Jesus said the kingdom is at hand is because when we're overcome by ego and the veil is still up, the kingdom is at hand. All you got to do is grab it. And then he said the kingdom is within. So he was telling us to go within. And he said, when I leave, I will send a comforter. He didn't say he was going to send something outside of us. He said he was going to send a comforter for us within us because the kingdom is within us. So go into the kingdom within yourself. The crown is at the top of your head. That's the top of the mountain where Moses climbed and met Jehovah, the burning bush. It's the mountain that I climbed and met Mariel. That is a golden pillar to me. It's the mountain that Celeste climbed and found the name Celeste is his soul. I've seen it with many people, but only in the last little, or well, actually, only recently did I start doing the meditation to meet your soul for what it really is as energy. It used to be as a man and a woman. That's the way I was taught it.
Mm.
But then I came to realize that it's always yin and yang. It's always one. It's, oh, and you said split apart. That's what you talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Split aparts. Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve were one that were split apart. That's significant. And then God said, we created him as one of us to know, to have the knowledge of good and evil, and then to die. But then says, but that he take up, that he eat from the tree of life and live forever. The tree of life is the olive tree. In the Old Testament, it says that the olive be beaten to fill the lamp, that it burn forever. In the New Testament, talks about the virgins that hear the call of the bridegroom. They have their lamps full of oil. They trim their lamps and they go to the altar. And the ones that didn't have their lamps full tried to get into the gate, but Christ consciousness said, away from me, I don't know you. Why would that be? Because they don't have the full lamp. They couldn't trim it. They couldn't light up. They couldn't illuminate, which is really awesome. No mistake in that, Celeste. Thank you.
Mm.
They illuminate. They go in. But the ones that were denied into the gate, that didn't mean they were closed out forever. It just mean they weren't ready. They weren't ready. Christ consciousness didn't know them. Why didn't Christ consciousness know them? Because they didn't know the kingdom was within them. Because they didn't know Christ consciousness was that dove that came down on Jesus after he was baptized by water. That's what it is. The dove has descended onto me in Christ consciousness. And now it is Christ consciousness. It's within you. Everybody is Christ. Everybody has the ability to realize Christ consciousness. Now, your soul has to be experienced in order to hear the call of the bridegroom, which is Christ consciousness, which is what we marry to, which is where the split aparts come back together at the ascension or somewhere around the same time, not necessarily at the same time. But Adam and Eve eventually ascended. They came back together as one, and they became a whole I soul. Whole I, whole I, whole I, Lord God Almighty. Not holy, it's whole I. Holy is the leaven. To think that God is an old man sitting somewhere in some place looking like a human being is completely miss. It's a misinterpretation. God is energy. God is light. God is nothing to do with physical other than by creation and being in the avatars and splitting into many, many souls that are eternal beings. So the kingdom is within. The kingdom of heaven can only be experienced by a soul that is evolved to where they hear the bridegroom's call and can trim their lamp, which means that they light up, they get the crown of Christ. And as we said earlier in this podcast, we offer to do a meditation with people to where you can actually go within, we'll take you within. We'll teach you how to do alpha consciousness, which is the first part of Christ, which is green, and then take you into theta, which is the higher part, which is where Jesus ascended into in that vibration. We take you into that. We will introduce you to your soul if your soul wants you to be introduced at that time. If not, your soul will take care of that. All you have to do is seek it. And then we introduce you to your spirit animal that after you find out what that is, you'll say, no kidding. That's why I do what I do, right, Celeste? That's
It becomes
why.
really obvious, painfully obvious.
Yes. You see it in your body. You see it in your face. You look in the mirror and you'll see it. I look like a female African lion. Celeste looks like a female tiger. Um, I've I've done hundreds of people in the meditation and met their soul, met it as different though, as man and woman, like Adam and Eve, not as their soul eternal name. But the animal, I've seen many. I've seen walruses. I've seen orcas. I've seen what's bears, otters, gorillas. When I sat in a room with like 30 or 40 people, and everybody stood up and told what theirs was and what the name of it was. And every single one of them, when you look at them, they stood up. I'm a gorilla. Oh man, for sure. For sure. And one lady was an orca, and she looked like an orca. Her face, she had a heavier body. And that explains why people are bigger than other people and why they can't be skinny like other people. They're not supposed to be because they have a beautiful animal. But anyway, you see that in the mirror, and then you understand why you react the way you do, why your fight or flight is. So anyway, we offer that. And if anybody is interested in that, all you have to do is follow and get a message to us. And you don't have to follow permanently. And we don't really encourage that, actually. We're telling people how to do this to go forth for yourself. Mm-hmm. We're not building a religion or a ministry or anything like that. We are building independent, soul-growing beings.
And think of this as learning how to come into alignment with this alliance that God created. He designed it inside you so that you can be exactly what you desire for your future.
That you are going to be exactly what you desire. Yes,
that's how you were designed to. You were designed to come into this agreement. It's just when. So right as you come into agreement with it, you can start to, dream the dream, create that experience that you want. That when we talk about these split aparts and being at the control of these other lives, you can really direct lives in such a positive manner. And we're not saying that you need to become an expert at living somebody else's life. That's not what we're saying. But you can have such an amazing role in, seeing other people expand and develop and flourish and thrive and all the, become magnificent, which again, we like to reinterpret as magnifying the one I sent, that first Adam. And then just magnifying it, just continuing to expand it throughout the universe.
Yes. Yes. And my wife is reminding me that giraffes, I know a giraffe very well. Very well, very well, very well. It's funny, a giraffe and a lion, they get along really good. So, yeah, and for me, the way I exist now, it took a long time for me to come to this, though, is that I know there's nothing for me to do but be.
Mm-hmm.
Once I realized that God was the one, well, God gave me a vision, gave me a feeling, not a vision really, a little bit of vision, but gave me a feeling of what was to come. And then it was out of my control. I said, yes, I want that. And then 34 years later, it starts.
Yeah.
So I wanted it that week.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. Come on.
It's not
let's
on
do
our
it.
timeline, though. But he knew exactly when it would happen, and that's that's the beauty of catching up on some of our past episodes, is you can hear how this progression has gotten to the point where we can speak with so much confidence and so much clarity, because we really have had that ability to come into alignment. These are not just ideas. We're living by these values. They inform how we walk through our lives, and we're able to, in this current life season, just magnify the one that was sent. That's the job. That's all it is now.
Yep.
I don't want to call it a job, because then it makes it sound like we're working for money or whatever, right? And that's not it. This is our mission. It's our and that's go forth and make builders of all nations. That's what it's about.
It's the calling, and also it's the order that Jesus gave. Spread the good news to the world. Share it with the world. Well, that's what we're doing. That's what we want to do, is share it with the world, because there's a way to do it now. The whole world's not ready. Actually, most of the people on this planet right now are not ready. But there are many that are waking up, and they're trying to realize what that awakening is. And all you've got to do is be, ask, and then be. There's nothing to do but be.
And I think the last call to action that I just want to make sure people clearly understand is, like, we use this platform because it's convenient, and we're not super techie guys that have a studio. We just need to be able to use our phones to make this happen. But right, the distraction of these requests to donate or to follow or to like or whatever it says, ignore those, and know that our call to action is to have you guys literally call in, using the feature on your phone app, to call in and ask questions, or debate, or
share your experience.
Share an experience, how God's using you, how you've become this experience of God, for God, by God.
And I just wanted to say real quick that everything is wonderful. Everything that everybody that, people think that there's this battle going on between good and, between a spiritual battle of good and evil. But God created the good and the evil, created everything. So how can there be a battle mistakenly or randomly? It's all meant to be exactly what it is. Every single piece of it. And it's hard for the ego to take that. Wow, something exploded there.
Did not hear
it. I know, because it came from something on your mic or something.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I'll save that for you to listen to. Okay, so I can tell that people come in, listen, that they're coming in late. Couple in the last couple of minutes. This is a non-religious podcast. We aren't here to save the world. We're just spreading the good news. It's our calling. It's what we're doing. It's what feels good. We get on here and we have fun discussions between ourselves. At least they're fun to us. It's raw. We have no script. We just come on and discuss these things and just, for whatever reason. Everything else is up to you or in God between you. But if you've come to this place, there may be no mistake in it. And again, I will be publishing these things. If you see a pop-up that asks for gifts to us or anything like that, ignore it. We do not want them. We give this freely. We give this freely. It has been free to us, and we share it because that is what we are supposed to do in our minds. So it's on the Podbean podcast. Just to click on and go to the playlist. If anybody wants to, there's meditation on there. There's a guided meditation number 20. In 2 and 3, I break down for people that know the Bible or read the Bible in the symbolic meanings to break down the parable that is the Bible. And then we just have open discussions on these things between us.
Which is really fun.
And it is. It's very fun. Very fun. We did it on the phone from time to time, and now we just do it every week on here, and it's like talking on the phone, but we're doing it to share it with others that may be looking for something to cue them to go within themselves and to realize that God is you and that God is calling all the time because God is the love in your heart. And your heart is only veiled by your ego. And the less energy you give to your ego, the more the veil opens. And in the Bible, where it talks about the veil tearing open in the temple, well, the temple is your body. When you realize that God is within you, and if you have an experienced soul, that veil can tear open. And like that, you just had the great sound effect.
I didn't move an inch, so I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know, but that was perfect. That sounded like a veil ripping open almost.
No idea where that got picked up from because it's quiet in here. But okay. I think I am getting a little tapped out.
Yep. Okay. Me too. Me too. So that's all. So again, this will be published by morning, and it will be on YouTube sometime after that. And then it takes a little while for the closed captioning to get on. So anybody that likes closed captioning, it's not completely accurate, and I'm not going to take the time to go and check it and get it accurate, but it does do a really good job. So check that out if you like. And again, we invite anybody to just tap the follow thing on this one, and that's the only way I'll ask, or the only reason I'll ask. And send us a message if you're interested in learning how to meditate, to go and find God within yourself, to find out who you really are. So thank you, everybody that has popped in here. We appreciate it. And thank you, Celeste, for being here tonight. I'm glad you had your great vacation, and I know that you will be illuminating back. You'll be breathing in again.
Yes, sir. Grateful for our time again. And thank you, listeners. Definitely feel free to call in next time or jump in the chat and ask for anything to be clarified or challenge anything you hear, or, share something you're grateful for. Share an experience of how God's working in your life. We'd love to hear all of it.
Yep. And even if you just hear what was being said and go within yourself and go from there. go forth. You know, we don't even need to know. Just go on. Just do it. So, and we'll, with that, say goodnight. And again, thank you, everyone. Have a
Holy,
good night.
holy,
Or,
holy, hallelujah, Lord God
yes,
Almighty.
whole I, the three parts of us come together, and that is God Almighty.
Good night, y'all.
Good night, everyone.